The sun hung low over the semi-modern African city, casting a warm glow in a mix of old and new. Tall glass buildings shimmered like proud giants, but beside them stood dusty alleys, wooden kiosks, and small shops built from iron sheets and hope. Women in bright chitin cloths bargained loudly with market vendors, their voices carrying stories older than the streets themselves. Motorbikes weaved past donkey carts, and children chased each other barefoot, their laughter rising above the noise like the songs of village spirits. In this city where modern life rushed forward, the whispers of ancestors still followed closely behind. Some said if you listened carefully at dawn when the first rooster crowed, you could hear the spirits reminding people not to forget where they came from. At the edge of this busy world stood the wide compound of Chief Manla. The house was not the biggest in the city, but it was respected, just like the man himself. Its walls were strong, painted in earthy tones that made it blend with old traditions. Inside the gate, mango trees spread their shade like guardian elders. The servants walked quietly, knowing the chief liked order and discipline. Every corner of the home carried a scent of tradition, cow horns near the doorway for blessing, carved masks passed down from ancestors, and an old drum placed in the corridor to remind the young of the rhythms of their people. Chief Manla stood on the balcony that morning, watching the city wake up. His face was stern, carved with lines of leadership and long days. But behind that strength was a silence he carried like a secret burden. Since the passing of his wife, a cold emptiness lived inside him. He rarely smiled, and even when he did, it never reached his eyes. Amina walked below, sweeping the compound yard. She was a young village girl with gentle eyes that saw more than she ever said. Her uniform was simple, but she carried herself with quiet dignity. Every morning, she whispered a small prayer for strength for her family back home, strength for herself as she tried to survive in the city, and strength to serve a man who did not always see her humanity. As she swept, she looked at Chief Manla from the corner of her eye. She could sense the loneliness that clung to him like a shadow, yet she dared not approach him unless spoken to. A chief has no time for the worries of a maid, she would tell herself gently. Inside the house, things were never as calm as they seemed. Cato, the chief's nephew, arrived unexpectedly that morning. He walked through the gate with the air of a man who believed the world owed him more than it gave. His clothes were fashionable, his smile practiced, and his eyes sharp like the blade of a hidden knife. He hugged his uncle with a warm front, but the moment the chief looked away, Cato's face hardened. To him, tradition was a cage, respect was a mask, and his uncle's authority was an obstacle standing between him and the life he believed he deserved. Mama Zuri, the chief's elderly neighbor, watched him from across the fence. Her tired eyes had seen too many stories of betrayal to be fooled by a smooth smile. MLH, she murmured, tightening her shawl. When a snake enters a homestead wearing a pleasant color, the chickens must not close their eyes. Later that afternoon, a strange silence settled inside Chief Manla's home. It was not the peaceful silence of rest, but a heavy one, like the pause before a storm. Amina felt it as she dusted the shelves. She kept hearing soft footsteps when no one was around. She noticed small items missing, keys, documents, things too important to be misplaced. Her heart whispered warnings she did not know how to voice. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Mama Zuri called her over. Amina, she said in a low, serious tone, a home that grows quiet hides a restless spirit. When the air grows heavy, the ancestors speak loudest. You must keep your eyes open. Amina swallowed nervously. Mama Zuri, what do you think is happening? Child, the old woman said, shaking her head, I only know what the wind tells me. Something is walking in that compound that does not wish the chief well. Amina thanked her, but the moment she stepped back inside, Chief Manla spoke sharply. Amina, why are you listening to that old woman again? This is a modern home. We don't feed ourselves with village fears. I'm sorry, Chief, Amina whispered, bowing her head. I didn't mean... Enough. Do your work. His pride filled the room like smoke, choking out any chance of warning him. That night, as Amina carried laundry toward the back rooms, she froze. Voices echoed through the hallway, whispers. She moved closer, heart pounding. It was Cato and two unfamiliar men. Their words crawled into her ears like cold fingers. "Once he's out of the way, everything becomes ours," one of the men hissed. "The business, the properties, all of it," Cato replied quietly. "My uncle thinks tradition will protect him, but he forgets that the world has changed." Amina's breath caught. They were planning something terrible, something final. She clutched the laundry basket to her chest, trembling, her mind spinning. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to step back silently before they noticed her. By the time she reached the corridor, tears were already forming. "What do I do?" she whispered to herself. "If I speak, they will say I am lying. If I stay silent, the chief might die." The weight of the truth crushed her small shoulders. Her heart beat like a warning drum, the kind used in old villages when danger approached. And in that moment, Amina sensed that fate had placed a heavy choice in her hands, a choice that would shape not only her life, but the future of the entire household. The morning sun rose over the semi-modern African city, like a gold drum calling life to begin. The streets awakened with noise and color, women spreading bright fabrics across wooden stalls, traders shouting their prices with pride, and the smell of roasted maize drifting through the air. Children ran barefoot between the kiosks, laughing as though they carried no weight from yesterday. Their joy mixed with the sharp cries of market sellers and the deep voices of elders sitting beneath umbrella trees, watching the world rush faster than the stories they once told. One of the elders shook his head slowly as he watched a group of teenagers take selfies near the old bronze statue of their great ancestor. "He murmured. "Modern life runs like a wild river, but the old stories walk like wise men. Those who forget them will lose their path." These words floated into the air like dust, joining the rhythm of the busy city. Not far from this lively scene stood the home of Chief Manla, a large compound surrounded by tall iron gates and thick mango trees, whose branches stretched like protective arms. The house itself was strong and well-kept, painted in warm earthy tones that made it look like a bridge between tradition and modern life. It was not the richest home in the area, but people respected it because they respected the man who lived inside. Chief Manla was a man whose name carried weight in every corner of the city. He was known for his generosity, his strong voice during community meetings, and his unshakable commitment to tradition. Yet inside him lived a quiet storm. Since the death of his wife, loneliness had become his shadow. His proud shoulders still stood tall, but his heart, once warm, had grown colder with time. Amina, the young maid, stood near the doorway holding a broom. Her eyes lowered respectfully as Chief Manla passed, but she secretly studied his face. She had been working there only a few months, yet she had already seen enough to know that the chief's heart carried many unspoken wounds. "Good morning, Chief," she said softly. He only nodded, not unkindly, but distantly, like a man whose mind was trapped somewhere yesterday could not reach. Amina sighed quietly and continued sweeping the veranda. She was a village girl, humble but strong in spirit. She sent half of her earnings back home to her family, who depended on her small salary. Every day she worked with care, hoping to honor her parents' prayers and the dreams she carried in her chest. Inside, footsteps echoed across the house. Quick, sharp, confident. Cato, Chief Manla's nephew, walked through the hallway wearing flashy clothes, dark glasses, and a smile that sparkled with charm but hid a darker truth. He greeted Amina with a wink, and she instantly lowered her gaze. Something about his smile always made her heart uneasy, like a drumbeat that didn't match the rhythm of the dance. "Cato," Chief Manla said from the dining room, "you came early today." "Of course, Uncle," Cato replied, his voice smooth as oil leather. A family man must show his face. Chief Manla grunted, not convinced. As Cato walked past, Mama Zuri appeared just outside the gate, leaning on her wooden walking stick. Her eyes were cloudy but sharp with the wisdom of many seasons. She wore layers of colorful cloth and beads that clicked softly whenever she moved. She called to Amina in a low voice. "Child, come here for a moment." Amina stepped closer. "Mama Zuri, is everything all right?" The old woman sniffed the air as if smelling something unseen. "This home," she murmured, "it has grown too quiet, too heavy. When a home grows quiet, The ancestors speak loudest. Be alert, Amina. Amina felt chills crawl down her arms. But Mama, what should I do? Use your eyes, the old woman whispered, tapping Amina's forehead gently. And use your spirit. Danger does not always shout. It sometimes walks softly. Before Amina could answer, Chief Manla's voice snapped across the compound. Amina, stop wasting time with these old superstitions. This is a modern house, not a village shrine. Mama Zuri smiled sadly. A man who closes his ears to wisdom, she said quietly, will hear thunder when it is too late. Amina returned inside, but her heart felt unsettled. As the day passed, strange things continued to happen. Papers moved from place to place. Keys vanished. Soft whispers floated through empty corridors. Amina tried to ignore them, but her spirit kept tugging at her, warning her to pay attention. That evening, she carried folded clothes toward the guest rooms when she stopped suddenly. Voices, low, hidden, dangerous. She pressed herself against the wall and listened. "Kiddo," one man whispered, "the chief trusts you. That makes our work easier." "Yes," Cato replied, his tone dripping with satisfaction. "Once he's gone, the business is mine." The old man still believes the world runs on tradition. He doesn't see that people like me are the future. Amina gasped softly, her hands trembling. She peeked through the door crack and saw Cato leaning close to two unfamiliar men with cold eyes and hard faces. "If we don't act soon," one of them muttered, "someone else will get to him first." "Don't worry," Cato said darkly. "I'm ready. I've waited too long for what is rightfully mine." Amina felt her legs weaken. Her breath shivered in her chest. "No, no, this cannot be happening," she whispered. She stepped back, her heart racing like drums calling for war. Each beat felt like a warning from the ancestors themselves. If she told the chief, he might blame her. If she stayed silent, something terrible would happen. Her voice cracked as she whispered to herself, "What do I do? Who will believe someone like me?" Outside, the city continued its noisy life. Children laughing, traders shouting. But inside Amina's world, everything suddenly felt dark. And the night, which usually brought rest, now carried a fear deeper than shadows. The sun dipped low behind the semi-modern city, painting the sky in soft gold and dusty red. Cars honked in the distance. Traders called out their evening prices, and the smell of roasted maize floated through the streets. It was a city where old drums still whispered beneath the heartbeat of progress, where tradition walked quietly beside modern life. And in the middle of that world stood the home of Chief Manla. His house was wide and strong, built with clean modern stone, but shaped with the spirit of the ancestors. The walls were not luxurious, yet anyone who passed by paused with respect. People said, "A home shows the heart of its owner," and Chief Manla's home spoke of honor. Nothing extra, nothing lacking. Inside, Chief Manla moved slowly through the courtyard, his hands behind his back. His face carried lines carved by time, strength, and the silent grief of losing his wife. He walked like a man respected by all, yet followed by shadows only he could feel. Sometimes he paused near her favorite chair, touched it gently, then cleared his throat as if pushing away a memory he wasn't ready to face. Amina watched him from the kitchen doorway. She was a young village girl, quiet, hard-working, always lowering her eyes when spoken to. But her heart was sharp, and her mind noticed things others missed. She had come to the city to support her family, yet she carried their struggles like stones hidden beneath her smile. When Chief Manla called her name, she hurried to him. "Yes, Baba Manla?" she said softly. He nodded without looking at her. "Just checking if everyone is doing their work. This house must remain in order." "Yes, Baba." He turned away again, proud, distant, yet lonely like a tree standing alone after the forest has moved on. Across the courtyard, Cato leaned against his sleek motorcycle, polishing the mirror with lazy charm. People admired his easy smile, but that smile had a heart twisted by jealousy. He looked at his uncle's house not with love, but with hunger. "Old man," he murmured under his breath, "your time is fading, and the world belongs to those who dare to take it." Amina often felt uneasy around him. When she swept the yard or served tea, Cato's eyes followed her, not with kindness but with calculation, like he was planning something even she was not supposed to sense. Later that evening, Mama Zuri shuffled into the compound. Her back was bent, her wrapper faded, but her presence carried the strength of generations. Children in the neighborhood said she could hear the ancestors breathing through the wind, and maybe they were right. "My daughter," she called to Amina, waving her close. "Come here, let me look at you." Amina approached with respect. "Mama, Zuri, good evening." The old woman hummed, her eyes narrowing. "This house is too quiet. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest." Amina felt a cold shiver run down her spine. "Mama, what do you mean?" But Mama Zuri only tapped her walking stick on the ground. "Keep your ears open, child. Not every smile carries peace." Chief Manla overheard them and shook his head. "Ah, Mama Zuri," he said loudly, "these are modern times. Leave the ancestors to rest. We have bigger things to worry about: business, development, the future." Mama Zuri eyed him with pity. "Manla, even the tallest building needs a foundation. When you forget the ground you stand on, the wind W." He waved his hand and walked inside, pretending not to feel her words digging into his chest. Night fell slowly, dragging long shadows across the compound. Amina was cleaning the back corridor when she heard footsteps. Soft, hurried. She pressed herself against the wall, listening. Cato's voice floated through the dim passage, low and sharp. "You understand the plan," he told the two men beside him. "Once the old man signs the final documents, everything will be in my hands. And if he refuses, then we make sure he can't refuse." One man chuckled. "You mean we silence him?" Cato's answer came like poison. "Whatever it takes. His time is over." Amina covered her mouth to stop a gasp. Her knees trembled, and her heart beat so loud she feared they would hear it. She did not want trouble. She did not want danger. She just wanted to work, send money home, and stay unnoticed. But now the ancestors had placed a heavy secret in her hands. When the men left, she slipped out from her corner, her breath shaky. "What do I do?" she whispered to herself. "If I tell Chief, he may think I'm lying. If I stay silent." She imagined Chief Manla's proud face, stern but not unkind. She imagined Cato's cold smile. Then she imagined Mama Zuri's warning echoing like a drumbeat. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. Suddenly, the house felt too still, like every shadow held question. The night breeze carried whispers that wrapped themselves around her heart. Amina stood frozen, knowing she could no longer pretend not to see the danger rising like a storm over Chief Manla's roof. She swallowed hard. A choice was coming, one that could save a life or destroy her own. And the ancestors were watching. The city breathed like a living drum, alive with movement and color. Cars wove through narrow roads, boda-bodas darted like restless spirits, and vendors lifted their voices above the noise of the evening crowd. Children raced past dusty pavements with bare feet, their laughter echoing between new cement buildings and old mud-walled shops that refused to surrender to time. It was a place where modern lights shone brightly, but the ancient story still walked quietly in the shadows. At the end of a long road stood the home of Chief Manla. His compound was big but not loud, its walls painted in warm earth tones, its gate carved with traditional patterns that whisper of honor and discipline. Neighbors always said, "Manla's home is like Manla's heart, strong, steady, and filled with old pride." Inside those walls lived a man who carried respect like a crown. Chief Manla walked with firm steps, his chest always lifted, his jaw always set. People bowed to him, but no one saw the soft emptiness hiding inside him. Ever since his wife passed, a silence followed him like a loyal shadow. Sometimes, late in the evening, he would stand by her favorite chair in the courtyard and rub his thumb along the armrest, as if hoping the wood might return the warmth he lost. Amina often caught him doing this. She would pause mid-sweeping, clutching her broom with both hands. "Baba Manla misses her deeply," she whispered to herself. Amina was a gentle soul, a village girl who had left behind her family's cracked-roof home to earn a living in the city. She worked quietly, spoke softly, and carried a heart filled with both hope and worry. Her eyes missed nothing, especially the tension that had begun curling its fingers around the house. Cato brought that tension with him. He walked through the compound with the confidence of a young man who believed the world owed him its riches. He smiled easily, laughed loudly, and charmed visitors with his sharp clothes and smooth words. But behind those eyes was a fire that burned with envy and ambition. One afternoon, as the sun dipped lower, Cato strolled past Amina and flicked a coin toward her. "Little village girl," he said with a smirk, "buy yourself something sweet." Amina picked the coin from the ground without meeting his eyes. "Thank you," she murmured, but in her chest, unease tightened its grip. That same evening, Mama Zuri walked into the compound. Her wrapper was old, her back bent, but her presence commanded more respect than any shiny suit or modern title. She tapped her walking stick twice on the stones. "Amina, my child, come greet me." Amina rushed to her. "Welcome, Mama Zuri." The old woman looked around slowly, her eyes like deep wells of forgotten stories. This house has grown too quiet." She narrowed her gaze at the doorway. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. Amina felt her body stiffen. "Mama, what do you hear?" she whispered. "Not what I hear," Mama Zuri replied, "but what I feel. A shadow walks here, a greedy shadow." Before Amina could answer, Chief Manla stepped out. "Mama Zuri, please," he said, forcing a polite smile. "We live in a modern city. Let us not frighten the young girl with old tales." The old woman chuckled softly. "Manla, when the drumbeat changes, even the blind man can feel it. You pretend not to." He sighed sharply and walked away, refusing to let her words touch him. But that night, Amina realized Mama Zuri had spoken truth. She was carrying clean laundry across the back corridor when she heard footsteps and hushed voices. She paused, pressing herself behind a column. Cato's voice rose from the shadows, sharp and impatient. "This is the final week," he told two men dressed in dark jackets. "Once the old man signs the papers, everything will be mine. The company, the land, all of it." "And if he refuses?" one man asked. Cato's answer sliced through the air. "Then we handle it our way. The old lion has roared long enough. It is time for a new king." The men snickered. "So you're saying we take him out?" "If that is what fate requires," Cato hissed. Amina's breath caught in her throat. Her basket slipped from her hands, and clothes fell silently to the ground. She gripped the wall, her heart pounding as loud as a ceremonial drum. No, not Chief Manla," she whispered, her knees shaking. When the man left the corridor, she crept out, her face pale with fear. "What do I do?" she whispered. "If I speak, they will say I am lying. They will say a village girl wants trouble." Tears filled her eyes. "If I stay silent, Baba Manla could die." The compound felt colder. Even the wind moved differently, swirling like troubled spirits, whispering warnings only she could hear. She remembered Mama Zuri's voice. "A greedy shadow walks here." She remembered Chief Manla's sadness, Cato's hunger, the ancestor silence. Amina stood alone in the darkness, trembling, torn between fear and duty. At that moment, the moon peeked from behind the clouds, shining directly on her as if the ancestors themselves were watching her next step. The sun was sliding toward the horizon when Amina stepped into the courtyard with a basin of clean clothes balanced against her hip. The orange light coated every wall of the compound, giving the place a warm glow that did not match the cold tension she felt inside it. She paused to catch her breath, brushing a loose braid from her forehead. Amina was young, but her eyes carried the weight of old struggles, eyes trained by poverty to notice details others ignored, eyes sharpened by responsibility to see signs that came long before danger arrived. Even as she set the clothes down, her gaze swept the compound quietly, like a watchful bird perched in a troubled tree. She whispered to herself, "These walls keep secrets, too many secrets." Every sound seemed to echo louder than usual. The rustle of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, the clinking of metal from the kitchen. She stiffened when she noticed a small carved stool that usually belonged in Chief Manla's sitting room. Today it sat abandoned in a corridor as if someone had dragged it, used it, and forgotten it. She frowned. Who moved this again? This is the third time. Her fingers brushed the wood. The stool felt cold. As she lifted her laundry basket, a soft voice floated from behind her. "My child, your spirit is restless today." Amina turned and saw Mama Zuri entering slowly through the gate, leaning on her walking stick. The old woman's wrapper fluttered like a worn flag. Her beads clinked gently with every step. Amina hurried to greet her. "Mama Zuri, good evening." The old woman nodded, her gaze drifting over the compound as though reading something written in the air. "You have the eyes of a small bird," she said softly, always searching the trees for danger. Amina looked down shyly. "Sometimes I feel like something is not right here, Mama." Mama Zuri hummed a low, knowing sound. "When a home grows too quiet," she murmured, "the ancestors speak loudest." Amina swallowed hard. "I hear things at night, whispers in corridors. And sometimes things disappear and reappear again." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Yesterday, I found Chief's old wooden box open, the one he told no one should touch." Mama Zuri's eyes narrowed. "And did you tell him?" Amina shook her head quickly. "No, he will say I worry too much. Or worse, he may think I'm the one touching his things." Mama Zuri stepped closer, placing a wrinkled hand on Amina's shoulder. "You are a maid, yes, but you are also a daughter of the soil. Your eyes see what pride ignores." The word sent a shiver through Amina's spine. Before they could speak further, Cato appeared at the doorway of the main house. His clean shirt, expensive watch, and slick smile made him look like he belonged to a different world than the one Mama Zuri and Amina came from. "Ah, Mama Zuri," he said, spreading his arms. "Here to bless the house again with your old stories?" Mama Zuri gave him a stare sharp enough to slice through lies. "Some stories are not old," she replied. "They simply wait for the right ears." Cato chuckled, brushing past Amina, without acknowledging her. The moment he disappeared inside, Mama Zuri leaned close to Amina and whispered, "That one walks with shadows. Be careful." Amina felt her heart tighten. She wanted to ask what Mama Zuri meant, but the old woman had already turned toward the gate, tapping her stick twice before leaving the compound. Left alone, Amina picked up her basket again. As she walked toward the drying line, she suddenly felt the weight of her own life pressing against her chest. She thought of her family back in the village, her mother's tired hands, her younger siblings with hungry eyes, the half-broken roof they prayed wouldn't fall in the next storm. "I cannot lose this job," she whispered. "I must send money home. I must help them." But the wind shifted, blowing a dry leaf across her feet, and for a moment she felt as though the ancestors were trying to warn her again. She tightened her grip on the laundry basket. Her mind whispered, "If danger is coming, I will see it first. I must protect this home, even if no one believes me." She stepped forward again, unaware that her observant eyes would soon witness something that would shake the entire household, and begin a battle she never asked to fight. The sun was lowering itself behind the tall buildings of the semi-modern city, painting the sky in orange and gold. Cars honked in the distance. Children laughed near street corners, and vendors shouted prices of mangoes and roasted maize. But inside the compound of Chief Manla, everything felt heavy. Even the wind seemed to slow down before entering. Amina stepped carefully across the compound, carrying a small basket of laundry. The girl's steps were soft, almost unnoticed, but her eyes saw everything. She looked toward the large house, big enough to show respect, but not loud enough to shout wealth. Its walls carried the history of family that once stood tall together. Now only Chief Manla remained, walking through its rooms like a lion who had lost his mate. Inside, the chief sat in his favorite wooden chair, carved with patterns of the old kingdom. His eyes were distant, lost somewhere between memory and stubbornness. When Amina entered, he did not look up. "Sir, should I bring your evening tea?" she asked softly. He nodded, his voice low. "Yes, the strong one, the way my wife used to make it." Amina's heart softened. Every day, She saw this man carry pride on his face and loneliness in his chest. Behind the house, near the gate, Cato stood leaning on a pillar. His clothes were modern and his smile charming, but his eyes carried a bitterness that never rested. When Amina passed him, he smirked. "Careful, Amina," he said. "In this house, even footsteps have secrets." She lowered her gaze. "I only walk where my work takes me." Cato chuckled. A cold sound for such a warm evening. "Work? Yes, that's what keeps people blind." Amina hurried past him, her spirit bothered, though she could not explain why. Later, as she hung the last of the clothes, Mama Zuri appeared at the fence. Her colorful shawl fluttered like a small flag of warning. She always came at strange times, as if guided by something unseen. "Amina," the old woman called gently. "Come here, child." Amina approached, wiping her hands on her apron. "Yes, Mama Zuri?" The old woman leaned closer, her voice dropping. "This house is too quiet these days. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest." Amina swallowed. I have felt something, Mama, like eyes watching, but not from people." Mama Zuri nodded slowly. "A storm is sitting on this family. Be watchful. A seed of betrayal has already been planted." Before Amina could ask more, the old woman lifted her walking stick and disappeared into the narrow path between the houses. Inside, the chief remained unmoved by any of this. When Amina brought his tea, he waved a hand. "That Mama Zuri again? Always bringing her superstitions," he muttered. "This is a modern city. We don't chase shadows anymore." Amina hesitated. "But, sir, sometimes shadows grow because someone is blocking the light." The chief looked at her sharply, surprised by her courage. But before he could speak, Cato walked in with a wide smile. "Uncle, I have good news about the business deals we discussed yesterday." Chief Manla's face softened. "You always bring news with confidence, Cato. Sit. Amina stepped back, feeling a strange tension. She waited until they were distracted, then slipped toward the corridor. Just as she turned the corner, voices caught her attention. Voices she knew didn't belong there. She froze. Cato and two strange men. Their whispers were sharp, like broken glass. One man said, "The old man is stubborn. He won't hand over control." The second replied, "Then remove him from the way. Once he's gone, everything becomes yours." Amina's heart pounded. Cato's voice followed, cold, serious, stripped of all charm. "I've waited too long. My uncle believes tradition is everything. He doesn't see the future. He doesn't deserve the empire he built. If he doesn't step down, then he steps out of this world. Understand?" Amina covered her mouth, holding back a gasp. Her knees weakened. Her breath shook. Her whole body trembled like a leaf fighting the wind. What should she do? If she told the chief, he might accuse her of lying. If she stayed quiet, the chief might not see another sunrise. Tears gathered in her eyes. For the first time, she felt the weight of fate pressing on her shoulders. A small sound escaped her throat, soft but enough. Cato turned sharply. "Did you hear that?" Amina ran before his footsteps reached the door, slipping into the storage room, heart pounding so loud she feared it would expose her hiding place. She leaned against the wall, whispering to herself, "What do I do? If I speak, I may die. If I stay silent, he will die." The house around her felt even heavier now, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. In that moment, she understood Mama Zuri's warning. The storm had already begun, and she was standing in the center of it. The evening sun sat low over the semi-modern African city, stretching long shadows across the busy streets. Old traditions walked hand in hand with rising modernity. A group of boys chased a worn football between small shops. Women balanced baskets on their heads, as if guided by invisible hands. Shopkeepers argued with laughter, calling out the prices of roasted groundnuts, ripe bananas, and woven baskets. But inside the tall gates of Chief Manla's compound, the world felt different, quiet in a way that made the air heavy. Amina walked across the yard with a metal tray in her hands. Her steps were gentle, respectful, like someone who knew her place but still carried hope in her heart. Amina came from a humble village far from the noise of the city. Every day she sent part of her small earnings home, so her younger brothers could stay in school. She carried that responsibility like a pot on her head, balanced but always felt. She entered the main house. It was large but not loud with wealth. Thick wooden doors carved with traditional symbols guarded each room. Pictures of ancestors lined the hallways, watching over the home like silent judges. Chief Manla sat in the center of the living room, reading an old newspaper he didn't seem to care about. His shoulders were broad, his back straight, but his eyes always looked tired, as if searching for someone who was no longer there. Amina placed a tray down. "Sir, your tea is ready," she said softly. Chief Manla did not look up. "Leave it there, child." His voice was firm, but his tone carried a loneliness he never allowed anyone to see. Amina bowed slightly and stepped back, watching him for a moment. She had heard stories about the chief, his great generosity, the things he had done for community, and the deep love he once shared with his late wife. Now, without her, his pride was a shield and his silence was a wound. Outside, Cato walked into the compound, humming as if life had gifted him everything he wanted. His shirt was bright, his watch expensive, his smile warm, too warm, like a pot left too long on the fire. He greeted neighbors with charm, always knowing the exact moment to laugh. "Amina," he called as he approached her, "you're always working. Do you ever rest?" She kept her eyes down. "Work is what brought me here, sir." Cato chuckled. A wise girl. But don't walk around too seriously. Life is short." His words sounded friendly, but something in his tone made Amina's spirit uneasy. As he entered the house, Mama Zuri appeared by the gate, leaning slightly on her wooden staff. Her headscarf was tied with care, and her eyes carried the sharpness of someone who listened to more than human voices. "Amina," she called. Her voice was low, like a drum warning before a storm. Amina walked closer. "Yes, Mama Zuri?" The old woman looked at the house with narrowed eyes. "This place is unsettled. Even the wind hesitates at the doorway." Amina shivered. I have felt strange things too. Sometimes I hear whispers, and some things go missing." Mama Zuri nodded slowly. "When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest." Amina swallowed. "Maybe I'm just imagining things." "No, child," Mama Zuri murmured. "Your spirit is young, but your eyes are awake. Watch closely. A shadow moves in this compound, and its feet are not those of a stranger." Amina felt her heart tighten. She wanted to ask more, but Mama Zuri tapped her staff twice and walked away, disappearing down the dusty path. Inside, Chief Manla dismissed the worry with a tired wave when Amina returned. "That old woman," he grumbled, "always hunting danger where there is none. We live in a modern city, child. We cannot allow every superstition to enter our home." Amina nodded respectfully, but her thoughts refused to settle. Later that night, as she carried a basket of folded clothes down the hallway, she heard voices from the back of the house. At first, she smiled, assuming it was Cato laughing with friends again. But then she heard something else. A hard tone, a serious whisper, a name spoken with anger. She stopped. Her breath froze. She moved closer, just enough to hear without being seen. Cato's voice cut through the darkness. "He will never give up control. That old man believes the world belongs to him and his outdated traditions." Another man replied, "So, what will you do?" "As long as he lives, the businesses remain under him." Cato laughed quietly, cold, sharp. Then he should not live so long. Amina's hand flew to her mouth. A second man asked, "Are you sure? He is your uncle." "Uncle," Cato spat. "He stands in my way. Everything he built should belong to someone who understands the future. Someone like me." Amina's knees trembled. The world around her blurred. Cato's next words drove fear straight into her bones. "When the time comes, he must be removed. I don't care how. I want what is rightfully mine." Amina took a tiny step back, but her foot tapped a small stone. Click. The sound was soft but enough. Cato paused. "Did you hear that?" Amina's heart dropped to her feet. Before he could step out, she turned and ran down the corridor, her breath tight, her eyes burning. She slipped into the laundry room and pressed herself against the wall, her hand shaking over her chest. Her thoughts screamed in her mind. If I tell the chief, he might think I am lying. Cato is family, and I am only maid. But if I stay silent, something terrible will happen. Tears filled her eyes. Her soul felt trapped between truth and fear, between duty and danger. For the first time since she stepped into this house, Amina felt the true weight of fate pressing on her. The whispers she heard, the missing items, the strange tension, everything suddenly made sense. Something dark was growing inside Chief Manla's home, and she was the only one who knew. The day began like any other in the semi-modern city, where old spirits walked through new streets without fear of being forgotten. Cars honked, children laughed, market women called out their prices with wide smiles, and the scent of roasted maize floated through the air like a stubborn blessing. But somewhere beyond the noise stood Chief Manla's compound, quiet, proud, and heavy with stories no one wanted to tell. Amina stepped through the gates early that morning. Her sandals brushed the dusty ground as she balanced a basket of fresh vegetables on her hip. She glanced at the sky, whispering a small prayer for strength. Her family depended on her, and she carried that burden with a kind of grace that even the wind respected. Inside the compound, everything looked normal, too normal. The large home stood firm, its walls decorated with ancient carvings and modern paint. It wasn't a palace, but it held dignity. Every beam, every stone, every doorway spoke of Chief Manla's long years of hard work. Yet lately, something felt off. Amina entered the living room where the chief sat silently in his wooden chair. His face was carved with strength, but his eyes carried a sadness that refused to leave. "Morning, sir," Amina said gently. He nodded without looking up. "Morning, child. Put the vegetables in the kitchen." His voice was firm, but empty, like a drum that had lost its skin. Amina obeyed, but her gaze lingered. She remembered how the neighbors said the chief used to laugh loudly, how his late wife's presence once filled the home like warm sunlight. Now, the chief moved like a man walking with invisible chains around his heart. As Amina stepped out, Cato walked into the room with his usual bright smile. His clothes were stylish, his watch shining like a promise he didn't deserve. "My uncle," Cato greeted loudly, "I hope you slept well." Chief Manla barely lifted his head. "Sleep is for those with peace." Cato laughed as if it were a joke, but his eyes narrowed for a second, just a second, enough for Amina to see the bitterness hiding beneath his charm. She slipped away quietly. While sweeping the corridor, Amina noticed something strange again. Chief Manla's keys, which she saw him holding last night, were now lying on the floor as if someone tossed them there. A week earlier, important papers had gone missing. A few days before that, she'd heard footsteps in the hallway long after everyone was asleep. Her heart whispered a warning. As she bent down to pick up the keys, a soft voice called from outside the window. "Amina, child." Mama Zuri stood there, her colorful headscarf glowing under the morning sun. Her staff rested against her shoulder, and her eyes, sharp and ancient, held a message. Amina opened the window. "Mama Zuri, good morning." The old woman didn't smile. "The wind tells me the spirits here are restless." Amina hesitated. "I feel it too. Things move, shadows shift. I hear things." Mama Zuri nodded slowly. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. Be careful. Not all who smile carry light in their hearts. Before Amina could answer, the old woman tapped her staff twice and walked away, leaving her heart beating with confusion and fear. Later in the afternoon, the house grew still, too still. Amina walked toward the back of the compound to hang laundry. As she approached the storehouse, she heard whispers, male voices, low, serious. She froze. Cato's voice rose above the others. "I am tired of waiting. The old man is stubborn. Everything he built should be mine. I deserve it." Another voice answered, "Then it is simple. Remove him. Once he is out of the way, no one will stop you." Amina gasped softly. Her heart jumped against her chest like a trapped bird. Cato growled, "Yes, I am ready. I won't let an old tradition worshiper block my future. Amina's knees weakened. The ground felt like it was sinking beneath her feet. She stepped back slowly, but her foot brushed a small can on the ground. Clink. Cato's voice sharpened instantly. Who is there? Amina's breath caught. She darted behind a water drum, pressing her trembling hands against her mouth. She heard footsteps approaching, then stopping. One of the men muttered, "Probably a cat." Cato clicked his tongue angrily. "This place is full of useless things. Let's continue." Their voices faded. Amina stayed hidden until her heartbeat settled. Tears pricked her eyes. "What do I do?" she whispered to herself. "If I speak, they might blame me. If I stay silent, the chief..." Her chest tightened painfully. The ancestors had shown her the truth. Mama Zuri had warned her. The shadows had been speaking. But now she had heard the danger with her own ears. She walked back toward the house, her steps slow, her spirit heavy. Each breath felt like a battle between fear and courage. In the doorway, she paused and looked up. One of the ancestor carvings stared down at her, stern, knowing, carved with a face that seemed to ask her a question. Amina closed her eyes. She understood. Silence would be the death of the innocent. Truth would be the death of her peace. Either way, her life had changed, and night had not even fallen yet. The city of Mkera woke slowly each morning, like an old drum warming to the first touch of the drummer. Motorbikes hummed along dusty roads, market women shouted prices of fresh fruit, and new glass buildings rose beside old clay-walled homes. In the middle of this mix of old and new stood the home of Chief Manla, wide, steady, and full of memories. Inside the compound, the morning sun slid across the yard where Amina swept the stones. Her hands moved fast, but her eyes carried the quiet weight of someone who had left her village too early. She often whispered small prayers as she worked, prayers for her sick mother back home and for strength to face each new day. Chief Manla stepped out of his room with the slow confidence of a man respected by many. His gray beard caught the light, and his posture reflected both pride and fatigue. He glanced at the gate as if expecting someone, but as usual, no one came. Amina greeted him softly. "Good morning, Chief." He nodded without a smile. "Morning, child. Make sure Cato gets his breakfast. That boy wakes with the hunger of a lion." A shadow crossed the chief's face when he mentioned his nephew, but he pushed it away quickly. He often did. Inside the house, Cato sat at the dining table, tapping his fingers sharply. His clothes were modern, tight jeans, bright shoes, yet his eyes held a cold impatience that did not match his charming smile. "You are late," he said to Amina, though she wasn't. She apologized quickly. "I am sorry, sir. I will serve it now." Cato leaned back in his chair. Studying her like someone observing a small creature he found amusing. You village girls always trembling. Relax. This house is not a prison. At least, not yet. Amina didn't understand the last part, but the tone made her uneasy. She hurried away with the tray, whispering to herself, "May the ancestors cover me." Outside, Mama Zuri, the elderly neighbor, walked slowly across the compound with her wooden cane. Her eyes were sharp, always watching, always knowing more than she said. She called Amina over. "Child," she said in her low, steady voice, "the wind in this home is not blowing right." Amina swallowed. "Mama, I feel it too. Things go missing. The nights feel long, and sometimes I hear whispers near the back door." Mama Zuri nodded as though she had expected this. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. Do not ignore the signs. Trouble walks with soft feet. Amina's heart tightened. But Chief Manla, he does not believe in these things. Mama Zuri clicked her tongue. A man can close his eyes to the moon, but the night will still be dark. Before Amina could answer, Chief Manla's voice boomed from inside. "Zuri, you are filling this girl's head with tales again. Leave spirits of the villages. This is a modern city." Mama Zuri did not flinch. She simply turned and walked away, murmuring, "Even modern walls cannot keep out old shadows." The tension in the house thickened in the days that followed. Amina noticed doors opening on their own, important files moved from their places, and Cato spending too much time whispering on his phone. She wanted to tell the chief, but each time she tried, his tired eyes made her hold her tongue. One evening, the sky turned a deep red, like a warning painted across the heavens. Amina went to the storage room to fetch cleaning supplies, but as she approached, voices froze her steps. Cato's voice came first, calm, cold, confident. The old man is slowing down. If we strike now, everything will fall into our hands. A second voice replied, rough and eager, and if he fights back, then, Cato said with a cruel chuckle, we remove him. I have waited too long for what should be mine. Amina's breath caught. Her hands trembled so hard she almost dropped the broom. She leaned closer, her heart beating loud enough she feared they might hear it. Another man spoke. We must act before he signs those documents. Once he does, it will be hard to touch his businesses. Cato hissed, exactly. We do it soon. No hesitation. Amina stepped back slowly, fear gripping her throat. She knew what she had heard. This was not anger, not greed alone. This was the beginning of something deadly. Her mind spun. Should I tell Chief Manla? What if he thinks I am lying? What if Cato punishes me? But if I stay silent, what will happen? Her legs felt weak. She whispered to herself, oh, ancestors, guide me. As she slipped away from the doorway, Mama Zuri appeared from the shadows, her eyes serious. You have heard something heavy, child. Amina's voice cracked. Mama, if I speak, I may lose everything. If I keep quiet, something terrible may happen. The old woman placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Remember this. When the heart shakes with fear, that is when truth must be strongest. Silence is also a choice, one the ancestors will judge. Amina looked toward the chief's room, then toward the dark storage door, where evil whispers had risen. Her world had suddenly become a battlefield of truth, fear, and fate, and the night felt darker than ever. The city of Kael'na breathed with a life of its own. Busy streets hummed like restless bees. Motorcycles weaved through narrow corners, and market women lifted their voices high as they called out prices of tomatoes and cassava. Bright billboards stood beside old mud brick shops, showing how the new world and the old world tried to live side by side. But behind all this noise, there stood a quiet compound known by many, the home of Chief Manla. It was not flashy like the rising buildings in the city, nor small like the houses along the dusty road. It stood with dignity, built wide and strong, like a man who had lived long enough to earn respect. The walls carried memories, the floors carried echoes, and the air carried something strange. Amina swept the courtyard in the early morning light. Her hands worked fast, but her thoughts wandered home, to her sick mother, to her little brothers waiting for her next salary. She was young, humble, and always alert. Her eyes saw things others ignored. Her heart felt things others denied. Chief Manla stepped out of his room, adjusting his dark brown robe. His face looked carved from experience, pride, loss, and loneliness sitting deep in the lines around his eyes. When he spoke, his voice filled the whole compound. Amina, make sure everything is ready. Cato says he is guest today. Yes, Chief, she answered softly, bowing her head. Chief Manla paused. For a moment, he looked as if he wanted to say something more, something heavy, but pride sat on his tongue like a stone. So he cleared his throat and walked the front gate. Inside the house, Cato lounged on the sofa with the confidence of a prince who owned everything he touched. His clothes were stylish, his smile charming, but his eyes were sharp like a knife hidden in silk. When Amina entered, he looked at her with a smirk. You walk too quietly, he said. Sometimes I think you appear from the shadows. She lowered her gaze. I'm only doing my work. Yes, yes, he waved dismissively. Your work. His tone made her uneasy, but she said nothing. Outside, Mama Zuri shuffled through the yard with her wooden cane. She stopped near Amina, her eyes scanning the house like someone listening to voices no one else could hear. Child, she whispered, this home is breathing in a strange way. I feel the walls watching. Amina's voice trembled. Mama, I feel it too. Things go missing. Doors open by themselves. At night, I hear footsteps when no one is awake. Mama Zuri nodded slowly. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. They do not keep silent when danger walks. Before Mina could reply, Chief Manla's deep voice cut through the yard. Zuri, you are filling her head with old stories again. This is Kailna City, not your grandmother's village. The modern world has no space for these superstitions. Mama, Zuri met his gaze calmly. A tree may grow in the city, but its roots remain in the soil. Ignoring them does not make them disappear. The chief scoffed and waved her off. But as he walked away, a flicker of unease crossed his face. He hid it quickly. Days passed, and the strange tension in the house grew heavier. Amina noticed whispers coming from empty rooms. Important files shifted from where she had placed them. Cato's behavior changed. He paced at night, met strangers near the back gate, and smiled too much at things that were not funny. One late evening, as the sky turned purple and the wind carried the smell of rain, Amina went to fetch water from the storage room. But as she approached, voices froze her steps. Cato's voice came first, sharp and eager. The old man is standing in my way. If we don't act now, we may lose everything. Another man replied in a low tone. Are you sure? He is your uncle. Cato laughed, a cold, empty laugh. Family means nothing when destiny calls. Once he is gone, the businesses will be mine. All of them. A third voice, rough, impatient. So, when do we move? Soon, Cato said, before he signs those contracts. We make it look like stress or an accident. No suspicion. Amina's hand flew to her mouth. Her heart thundered in her chest like a drum beaten in panic. Her legs felt weak. She stepped backward carefully, but a small stone rolled under her foot. Cato's voice sharpened. Did you hear that? She pressed herself against the wall, shaking. The men listened for a moment, then continued talking. Amina used the chance to slip away, her breath coming in broken gasps. Mama Zuri met her near the kitchen door, as if she had been waiting. What did you hear, child? The old woman asked softly. Amina's voice cracked. Mama, they want to harm the chief. They want to take everything he owns. Mama Zuri closed her eyes, sadness falling over her face like a shadow. Ah! The snake hides under the same roof as the hen. This is why the ancestors were restless. What do I do? Amina whispered, tears filling her eyes. If I speak, they may blame me. If I stay quiet, something terrible will happen. The wise woman placed her hand gently on Amina's trembling arm. In every tale, the heart is tested. Courage does not mean the fear disappears. It means you move even when fear holds your throat. Amina looked toward Chief Manla's room, where a soft light shined through the window. The old man sat inside, unaware of the storm forming around him. In that moment, Amina understood that fate had placed a heavy choice in her hands. The night grew darker. The wind rose, and the house seemed to hold its breath. Amina stood between fear and truth, and the ancestors were watching. The sun rose slowly over Kailna City, spreading a golden light across the rooftops and the busy morning streets. The city was alive. Children running between market stalls, women balancing baskets of vegetables on their heads, and traders shouting prices with voices strong enough to shake the air. Modern buildings rose in the distance, but between them stood old homes made of earth and memory. Kailna was a place where the future walked beside the past, whether people welcomed it or not. Far from the noise, behind tall iron gates, stood Chief Manla's home. It was large but not extravagant. Its walls painted the color of warm clay, the roof lined with wooden beams carved in traditional patterns. The house carried the kind of beauty that came from respect, not wealth. Every stone seemed to whisper stories of the family that lived there. Amina swept the front yard with slow, steady strokes. She was a village girl, young but shaped by hardship. Her eyes held both innocence and wisdom, like someone who had cried many nights but still chose kindness every morning. She glanced at the big house and sighed. Sometimes she wondered if the walls truly slept, because they always felt awake. Inside, Chief Manla stood before a framed photo of his late wife. His fingers brushed the edge of the frame. Everything is changing, he whispered, and yet without you it all feels empty. He straightened his back quickly when Amina entered. Chief Manla, your tea is ready. He nodded, hiding his sadness beneath his usual pride. Thank you, Amina. And remember, Cato will be around today. Make sure everything is in order. Amina bowed her head. Yes, Chief. As she walked out, Cato strolled in, hands in his pockets, smile too sharp to be honest. He moved like someone who believed the world should bend for him. Uncle, he said smoothly, today may be an important day for us. Chief Manla eyed him. For us? Or for you? Cato chuckled. For the family, of course. But Amina, passing by, caught the flicker of contempt in his eyes, an anger he hid behind charm. Later, as the afternoon heat thickened, Mama Zuri appeared at the gate with her cane and her colorful head wrap. She looked at the house the way a healer looks at a patient, searching for signs of sickness. Amina, child, she called. Amina hurried to her. Mama Zuri, is everything all right? No, the old woman murmured, lowering her voice. This house is breathing wrong. The silence inside is too loud. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. Amina's skin prickled. Mama, strange things have been happening. Things go missing. Doors move. At night, I hear footsteps, but when I check, nothing. Mama Zuri placed her hand on Amina's shoulder. Do not ignore the signs. Danger walks quietly before it runs loudly. Before Mina could respond, Chief Manla's firm voice interrupted. Zuri, please. Not this again. These are just old stories. This is a city. Modern life does not need ancient fears. Mama Zuri's eyes darkened with disappointment. When a man closes his ears to wisdom, trouble finds him with ease. Chief Manla turned away, refusing to hear more. That night, the house grew heavy with silence. Even the wind held its breath. Amina carried a basket of laundry toward the storage room, humming softly to calm herself. But as she approached, a whisper floated out, thin, sneaky, like a snake sliding across dry leaves. She froze. Cato's voice spilled through the half-open door. The old man will not agree. He is stubborn. If we wait, he may change his mind and ruin everything. Another voice, low and rough, replied, So what do we do? A third man added, Tell us now. We didn't come here to waste time. Cato hissed. He must be removed. Once he's gone, everything falls to me. The businesses, the properties, everything he kept from me. Amina felt her knees weaken. Her breaths came short and fast. One of the men grunted. And you're sure this will look natural? Yes, Cato whispered sharply. No one will suspect a thing. It will look like stress or age. The perfect end. Amina gasped before she could stop herself. The men fell silent. What was that? Cato demanded. Amina pressed herself against the wall, trembling. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared they would hear it. After a tense moment, one of the men snorted. Maybe a rat. Cato muttered something, and their plotting resumed. Amina slipped away, her steps quick and shaky. She reached the courtyard, clutching her chest. Mama Zuri stepped out of the shadows, as if she had been waiting. You heard them, she said quietly. Amina nodded, tears forming. Mama, they want to harm him. They want to take everything from him. The old woman sighed deeply, just as I feared. Jealous blood runs deep. It stains everything it touches. Amina whispered, If I tell the chief, he might not believe me. Cato will twist the truth. And I am only a maid. Mama Zuri touched her cheek gently. Child, the ancestors do not choose messengers based on status. They choose based on heart. But, Mama, I am afraid. As you should be, Mama Zuri said softly. But fear is not the enemy. Silence is. Amina looked toward the chief's window, glowing softly in the night. Inside sat a man unaware of the danger tightening around him like a rope. Her voice trembled. What do I do? Mama Zuri stepped back, lifting her cane toward the sky. Every tale begins with a choice. And tonight, the ancestors watch your next step. Amina stood alone in the dark courtyard, the weight of truth heavy in her hands. Whispers moved through the house again. But this time, she finally understood their meaning. The storm had begun. The The morning sun rose slowly over the semi-modern city, painting the streets with warm orange light. Cars honked in the distance, and the smell of roasted maize mixed with the noise of children running to school. Vendors lifted their umbrellas one by one, shouting prices with voices full of life. Though the city had grown with tall shops and bright signs, the heartbeat of old tradition still lived in every corner. Inside the compound of Chief Manla, the world felt different. The gate stood tall, the walls painted in fading earth colors, and the yard trimmed neatly. It was not a place of extreme wealth, but one of respect and quiet honor. The house breathed history, both sweet and bitter. Amina moved quietly through the compound, sweeping the front steps. She was a small, gentle girl from a village far away. Her eyes carried stories she never spoke about. Every morning she hummed a soft tune her grandmother taught her, hoping it would protect her from the troubles of the world. Chief Manla stepped out of his room, wearing a crisp shirt and holding his walking stick, not because he needed it, but because it reminded him of his late wife, who had carved it by hand. His shoulders were strong, yet there was a loneliness in how he looked at the sky. Amina lowered her head respectfully. "Good morning, Chief." He nodded slightly. "Morning, my child. The city wakes with noise, but this house," he sighed deeply, "this house grows quieter each day." Before Amina could answer, Cato, the chief's nephew, walked in from the gate. His steps were smooth, confident, almost too confident. He wore modern clothes and dark glasses, even though the sun had barely risen. "Uncle Manla," Cato called out with a wide smile, "you look strong today. Age has nothing on you." Chief Manla frowned a little, but kept his voice steady. "Strength is not measured by age, Cato. It is measured by truth and discipline." Cato's smile faded for a moment before he forced it back. "Of course, uncle, as you say." Amina watched him silently. There was something in Cato's smile that never reached his eyes. Later that day, while Amina washed the utensils, Mama Zuri slowly walked into the backyard, carrying her small basket of herbs. She was the old woman every child respected and every adult feared, because her words often came true. "My daughter," Mama Zuri said, her voice heavy and knowing. "This house, it is breathing strangely." Amina swallowed, unsure. "Mama, I have felt it too. Sometimes I hear whispers, and things go missing. I thought maybe it was just my imagination." Mama Zuri shook her head. "No. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. They warn before storms come." Amina looked toward the house in fear. "Should I tell Chief Manla?" "Ah," Mama Zuri murmured. "Chief Manla's heart is strong, but covered with stubbornness. He believes the old ways are shadows of the past. He no longer listens." Just then, Chief Manla stepped into the yard. "Mama Zuri, please," he said firmly. "Let's not fill this house with superstitions. We live in a city now. The old spirits have no place here." Mama Zuri looked at him with sad eyes. "Chief, spirits do not need a place. They follow the truth." The chief waved his hand dismissively and walked back inside. Amina's chest tightened. Even she could feel the growing tension, like a storm waiting behind the clouds. That evening, as the streetlights flickered and the city settled into night, Amina went to fetch water behind the compound. She heard low voices near the back fence. She moved quietly, her heart beating faster with each step. She recognized Cato's voice first. "It must happen soon," he said sharply. "The old man is standing in the way. Once he's out, everything becomes ours." A deep voice replied, "Are you sure your uncle won't suspect you?" Cato laughed coldly. "He thinks I'm a fool who only loves city life. He has no idea what I want or what I deserve." Amina felt a chill run down her spine. She crouched behind a stack of bricks, trembling. Another man whispered, "So the plan is simple. Remove him. By the time anyone asks questions, we will already control his businesses." Amina covered her mouth to stop herself from gasping. Cato's voice grew darker. "I have waited too long. If Chief Manla will not step aside, then he must be pushed aside forever." Thunder rumbled somewhere far away, though the sky was clear. Amina felt her heart break. She knew the chief was stubborn and strict, but he did not deserve death. Her hand shook as she whispered to herself, "What do I do? If I speak, they will say I am lying, a poor village girl trying to cause trouble. But if I stay silent," she closed her eyes tightly, "then the chief may die." The voices faded as the men left the compound's corner. Amina remained frozen, her tears falling silently onto the dry ground. Mama Zuri's words echoed in her mind. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. Now she understood. The quiet was not peace. It was a warning. Amina stood slowly, her legs weak but her heart beating with fear and determination. The night seemed darker than before. The wind whispered through the trees, as if urging her to choose a path. She knew her next step would change everything. The day began with a soft wind moving through the semi-modern city, carrying the smell of roasted cassava and fresh rain. The streets throbbed with life, hawkers calling out their prices, children laughing as they chased each other between narrow alleys, and motorbikes weaving through the morning traffic. Though the city had grown with shiny new shops and tall streetlights, the spirit of the ancestors still walked quietly between the old clay walls and the market stalls. On the edge of this lively place stood the home of Chief Manla. The house was wide and strong, built with red bricks and a long veranda shaded by old mango trees. It was not the richest home in the city, but it held a kind of dignity that money could not buy. People walking past always lowered their voices. Everyone respected Chief Manla, even when they disagreed with him. Inside the house, Amina moved with her usual grace. She was young, gentle, and carried the calm of someone who had known hardship. Her eyes were bright but heavy. It was a way of her family's needs back in the village, a burden she never complained about. She swept the veranda slowly, humming an old village song. It was a tune that spoke of strength, of rising again after storms. Her grandmother used to say such songs kept evil spirits away. Chief Manla stepped out of his room, adjusting the collar of his shirt. He walked with firmness, but the loneliness in his eyes told another story. Ever since his wife passed, the house had grown quieter. Too quiet. "Good morning, Amina," he said, his voice deep and tired. "Good morning, Chief," she replied softly. Cato entered through the main gate with quick, confident steps. His clothes were modern, his smile wide, but his eyes held a sharpness that made Amina uneasy. "Uncle Manla," Cato said, spreading out his arms as if greeting a king, "you are shining today." Chief Manla gave him a slow nod. "Flattery is the work of idle men, Cato. Speak plainly." Cato laughed lightly, but Amina noticed the bitterness behind it. "As you wish, uncle. I only came to see how you are doing." Amina lowered her gaze. She had seen Cato many times in the city, laughing loudly with strangers, spending money that did not belong to him. Something in his spirit felt restless, hungry. Later, as Amina washed vegetables in the courtyard, she saw Mama Zuri walking toward her. Mama Zuri was a kind of woman whose presence made the air shift. Her gray hair was tied back, and her wrapper rustled like leaves in a sacred forest. Her eyes, old and wise, carried stories older than any man in the neighborhood. "My child," Mama Zuri said, leaning on her carved walking stick, "this house, it carries a strange shadow these days." Amina's heart tightened. "Mama, I feel it too. Sometimes I hear whispers. Sometimes things appear where they should not be." Mama Zuri nodded slowly. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. And right now they're shouting. Before Mina could reply, Chief Manla stepped out again. "Mama Zuri," he said firmly, "please do not fill the girl's head with ghost tales. Times have changed. We live in a modern city." Mama Zuri turned to him, expression calm but heavy. "Chief, the ancestors do not care for cities or villages. They walk wherever truth is forgotten." Chief Manla shook his head and went back inside. But Amina could not shake the feeling that Mama Zuri's warning was real. That night, when the city lights flickered like tired fireflies, Amina went behind the compound to fetch water. The wind whispered through banana trees, making her wrap her shawl tighter around her shoulders. As she approached the fence, she heard voices, low, rough, and angry. She froze. Cato's voice cut through the darkness like a sharp blade. "It must happen soon. The old man is holding everything back. A deeper voice replied, Are you sure the chief won't suspect you? Cato scoffed. He still thinks I'm just a boy. He doesn't know how much I deserve. Once he's out of the way, the businesses will be ours. Amina felt her knees weaken. Another man added quietly, So the plan is simple. Remove him. No Chief Manla, no problem. Remove him. Kill him. Amina covered her mouth, fighting the scream rising in her throat. Cato continued, The moment he falls, I will take control. The board will listen to me. They have no choice. One of the men chuckled darkly. You have courage. Some would call it dangerous. Call it whatever you want, Cato whispered. I am ready, even if it means the old man must die. Amina's entire body trembled. The night suddenly felt colder, sharper, as if the darkness itself was listening. A tear slid down her cheek. Ancestors, she whispered. What am I to do? The men walked away slowly, fading into the shadows beyond the gate. Amina stayed crouched behind the bricks, shaking like a leaf in a storm. She felt trapped, caught between fear and duty. If I tell the chief, she thought, he may not believe me. He may even think I am trying to cause trouble. Her breath came in short gasps. But if I stay silent, he could die. The weight of her discovery pressed on her chest like a heavy stone. The house behind her suddenly felt darker, filled with unseen eyes. Mama Zuri's words echoed again, stronger this time. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. Amina rose slowly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Her legs were weak, but her spirit trembled even more. She took a deep breath, staring at the quiet house. Her choice would decide the fate of everyone within those walls. The night had revealed a terrible truth, and Amina knew she could no longer pretend she had not heard it. The sun dipped low behind the rooftops of the semi-modern African city, painting the sky with warm shades of orange and dust. The roads were alive with movement. Street vendors calling out their last sales, children running with dusty sandals, and the smell of roasted groundnuts drifting through the air. The city was changing, becoming modern with each passing day, yet the spirit of old tradition still whispered to the narrow alleys. At the end of a quiet street stood Chief Manla's home. It was a solid, respectful house, wide verandas, old clay bricks, and the shade of 2 giant mango trees that stood longer than any man could remember. The house did not boast wealth, but it carried pride and history, like the chest of a strong elder who had survived many storms. Inside, the atmosphere was different from the colorful noise outside. A strange heaviness lingered in the air. Chief Manlo walked through the hallway with slow steps. His shoulders were broad, but time and sorrow had carved deep lines on his face. Since the passing of his wife, silence clung to him like a stubborn shadow. Amina worked quietly in the kitchen, rinsing cassava leaves in a metal bowl. Her hands moved fast, but her mind wandered home, to her family in the village and the responsibilities she carried alone. Even so, she kept a gentle smile. She believed that kindness was a prayer the world always returned. Cato burst into the compound, whistling like a carefree bird. His clothes were stylish, his walk confident, but there was a coldness hidden behind his smile. Uncle, he called, I came to check on you. Chief Manla frowned. People who come to check rarely come empty-handed. Cato laughed. Your tongue is sharp as always. Amina watched from the doorway, uneasiness twisting inside her chest. She had never trusted Cato. His charm felt too smooth, like a snake sliding through tall grass. Later that afternoon, Mama Zuri appeared at the gate. Her wrapper fluttered like the wings of an old owl, and her walking stick tapped the ground with authority. Her eyes held the wisdom of generations, the kind that saw truth even when it was hidden. Amina, child, Mama Zuri said, her voice low. This house is breathing too quietly. Amina swallowed. Mama, sometimes I hear things. Footsteps in empty rooms. Doors opening by themselves. Mama Zuri looked around slowly. The ancestors are restless. They do not shout unless danger is close. Before Amina could speak, Chief Manla joined them with a sigh. Mama Zuri, he said, must you always come with stories of spirits and signs? This is a city We live with electricity, not curses. Mama Zuri's eyes darkened. Chief, a man who forgets the river, he came for a one-day thirst. But Chief Manlo waved her off and returned inside. Amina stood quietly, her heart beating faster. Mama Zuri placed a gentle hand on her arm. Keep your eyes open, child, and listen to your spirit. It never lies. As night spread across the sky, Amina went outside to hang wash clothes near the fence. The moon was pale, covered by thin clouds, and the wind moved softly through the mango leaves. Then she heard it, voices, low, urgent, hidden. She leaned closer, her breath held tight. Cato's voice cut through the darkness like a knife. He is too old-fashioned. He will never let me take over anything. Another man replied, So, what is your plan? Cato hissed, Remove him. We end this once and for all. Amina's hands went cold. A third voice joined. If the chief disappears, everything falls to you. Are you ready for that kind of blood on your hands? Cato chuckled, a sound that did not belong to a human heart. Blood washes off when you have power. Amina felt her knees weaken. She covered her mouth, fighting the urge to cry out. The world around her suddenly felt small, tight, dangerous. The men continued. We strike soon, before anyone suspects. Yes, Cato said. He will never see it coming. When their footsteps finally faded, Amina collapsed to her knees. Her tears fell silently onto the dry ground. What have I heard? She whispered. What kind of darkness is this? Fear wrapped itself around her chest like cold iron. If she told Chief Manla, he would not believe her. He might even accuse her of lying. Cato could twist the story, blame her, destroy her life. But if she remained silent, Chief Manla could die. Amina squeezed her hands together, trembling so hard she could barely breathe. Mama Zuri's warning echoed in her mind, stronger than before. When a home grows too quiet, the ancestors speak loudest. The air felt heavy with their presence, as if unseen eyes watched her, urging her to choose wisely. Amina looked at the quiet house through her blurry tears. Shadows stretched across the walls, long and eerie. Ancestors, she whispered, guide me. What should I do? She stood slowly, wiping her face. Her heart beat like a drum at a funeral. She knew her life would never be the same after what she had heard. A dangerous truth now lived inside her, and every choice she made from this moment could save a life or invite destruction. With the weight of destiny pressing down on her shoulders, Amina stepped toward the house, unsure whether she was walking toward safety or toward the fire.